Right, so I thought this was probably a good time to mention that we have been in a national lockdown for the last 4 months, so getting my excuses out early there. Nowadays, football is about more than just skill, and Premier League players are expected to be elite level athletes. And there's certain tests that these top level clubs will use to measure athletic performance. Well, today I'm going to be trying these tests out for myself to see how I compare. After getting in loads of carbs for breakfast, it was time to start the day. So to start this fitness test day off, we're going to be taking a look at some baseline stats. So first up, we've got the beats per minute heart rate, and for a professional athlete, someone in the Premier League, we're looking between 40 and 60 beats per minute. So let's see how I compare. So yeah, 68 is my resting heart rate. So when we're comparing that to the Premier League footballers, I'm a bit out, but it's not too bad. That's about average. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the body fat percentage, which in the Premier League, the average is between 6 and 10%. So smart scales to help. So we've got 10.7%. 10.7%, I'm actually quite happy with that. But now let's get on to some of the tests. So next up is a static jump, and this is one the Premier League players would be expected to get at least 40 centimetres on really. Here's a demonstration of Ronaldo doing the jump test. You've got to keep your hands on your hips and your legs straight. Really, and I think Aubameyang was Arsenal's best player and he got 54 centimetres, so that's 50 centimetres, so. I'll tell you what, I was pretty close to 40 there. I'll be happy with that one. So this one, very similar to the static jump, is very important in football. It's the long jump, shows the flexibility in the hips and obviously the power from the legs. So for the static long jump, anything over 2.35 metres would be considered good. I fell quite a bit short of that. 2 metres, 10 centimetres. Alright, now we're into the gym section. Next up is the press up test, and this one's going to be very hard. So the elite athletes, Premier League footballers, will be looking 47 plus is what's considered good for that, or very good. And that's just doing press ups until you can't do any more. So let's just go for it. 3, 2, 1, 2. No. 40. Oh, that's it. 40. Just bottled it on the 41. Oh my god. I was like yelling after that. Oh, not Premier League elite athlete level, but I'll take that. The next test in the gym is the plank test, and Premier League players will be expected to be able to hold this for at least 120 seconds or 2 minutes, so let's just get it done. We've got to get to 120 seconds. And I think that would just be like expected, not even a good score particularly for a Premier League player. Oh my god. I'm not going to make this, I don't think. A minute yet. 50. Okay, got this. 7, 8, 9, 2 minutes. Oh! Oh my days. That was hard. It's worth mentioning that a Premier League club wouldn't just drop a very good player because he failed one of these tests. These tests are done more for development and working out which areas certain players need to improve. After getting warmed up, the first test at the pitch was the 505 agility test. This is all about how quickly you can turn 180 degrees. And for Premier League level, we're looking at 2.2 seconds and below. So this is how the 505 agility test works. So you've got to run to the 10 metre mark, then the timer starts. You run to the end of the cones, touch, turn 180 degrees, and once you pass back through the cones, that's when the time stops. Next Next up we have the Ttest, and this one's all about change of direction. And for this, Premier League level is below 9.5 seconds.
So next up we've got a speed test. We've got 10 metres, 20 metres and 30 metres.
So these are the scores I'll be looking to get for the sprints. 1.8 seconds for 10 metres, 3.15 seconds for 20 metres and 4.12 seconds for 30 metres. And out of interest, here's a list of the fastest Premier League players last season. And to be fair, I did not expect to see Phil Foden on there, so it's quite impressive. So these are the scores for the sprints, and as you can see, the longer it went on, the bigger the time difference got. And 0.2 seconds might not seem like much, but it's the difference to getting to the ball first. So some Premier League players have been seen training with altitude masks, which basically restricts oxygen intake when exercising. I tried this out for myself, and honestly, it's extremely difficult to run with one of these things on. But the science on how effective these actually are is unclear.
This is horrible. They're so disorientating, but in there. That's not fun, that's not fun.
A test that I wasn't able to do was the VO2 Max Test. It measures the maximum heart rate the body can effectively use oxygen during exercise. And due to the fact you need a lot of specialised equipment to do this, unfortunately I couldn't do it for myself. But for comparison, a Premier League player's VO2 Max would be between 60 and 70 millilitres, whereas the average person is about 38 to 43.
Now the final test, and the one that nobody looks forward to on a fitness test day, it's the bleep test, 20 metre bleep test. And for this, to put it into context, I think to pass the Royal Marines fitness test, you need to get a 10.5 at least on the bleep test. The Premier League average is about 13.9 on the bleep test. So if I can get to that level or anywhere close, I'll be happy with that. Apparently James Milner is just like the beast and never loses the bleep test and always just beats it. So yeah, this should be interesting to see how I compare.
Level 1.
I think it starts off very slow.
Level 2.
If you miss 3 beeps, you're out.
Level 4.
If you haven't seen this before, don't let this pace fool you. It gets very difficult.
Level 5. Level 6. Level 7. Level 8. Level 9. Level 10. Level 11.
Yeah.